Welcome everybody. That's on. Okay. When Councillor Trenner is ready, we're going to commence the meeting. Welcome to everybody, media and gallery. So welcome to this meeting of Council. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting and in the gallery may be captured as part of this recording. So we'd like to acknowledge the original custodians of the land on which we are meeting, pay our respects to their elders past and present, and to any of their descendants who may be here tonight. As councillors, we have all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We are all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. So this week is Reconciliation Week. This council meeting is being held this week, and each year National Reconciliation Week is held over the same dates from the 27th of May to the 3rd of June, and celebrates and builds on the respectful relationships shared by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and other Australians. This week-long celebration is an ideal opportunity for all Australians to explore ways to join the national reconciliation effort. The dates are very significant. The 27th of May is the anniversary of the 1967 referendum, in which Australians voted to remove clauses in the Constitution that discriminated against Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island peoples. The 3rd of June date marks the anniversary of the historic 1992 Mabo decision, in which the High Court recognised native title. National Sorry Day, which occurred last Thursday, the day before the beginning of the Reconciliation Week, is commemorated nationally each year to remember and honour the stolen generations. So I'd like to acknowledge this week and the sentiment behind it, and I also want to pay tribute to the late Councillor Don Chambers, who was a leading light in this council's decision to fly the Aboriginal flag alongside the state and Commonwealth flags at our two offices in Beechworth and Yakandanda. So in light of what I have said, the Aboriginal flag and the Torres Strait Island flag have been raised outside council offices and will remain flying until the end of Reconciliation Week on the 3rd of June. After that time, the Aboriginal flag will continue to be flown and the Torres Strait Islander flag will be replaced again with the Victorian state flag. So, any apologies tonight? Any conflicts of interest? We will move into open forum, and I have questions from 3 people tonight. So I'm going to start with Margie Barwood. Would you like to start? Hi, welcome Margie. So are you happy to read them out, Margie? You might need to move the microphone down a bit. Can someone do that for Margie? It's a bit, thank you. It's for tall people.
Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, fellow councillors, Indigo Shire received a response to date. Can you explain why?
Thank you, Margie. Look, can I start by saying that both the Beechworth Women's Shed and the Men's Shed do indeed offer valuable support to the Indigo Shire, no question at all about that. And I am aware of the work you've been doing for positive ageing with your projects, which is wonderful. The consultation process is just getting underway. You will, of course, be able to submit to that, and we're not at the point of actually allocating funding to any services. So I think you've just got in early, and we're not at that point, and you will be included, and we want you to be included in the consultation process. So I think we just haven't got as far down the track as you thought we might have.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Yep. Number 2, even though many country women are outgoing, we can also be very isolated. How would the Indigo Shire like us to prove our worthiness?
So I'm not sure we don't need you to prove your worthiness, Margie. You do great work, and we're very, I guess, supportive of the women in our community and aware of those issues around isolation. So the work that the Women's Shed do to address that is great, and we will be, as I said, we just haven't got as far into this process as I think you thought we might have. So we'll be very keen to have your input and to look at exactly that issue around how do we, with our positive ageing strategy, how do we reduce isolation, because it is actually a huge issue for elder people in our community. So thank you for naming it, and I think you'll have a lot of input for us. It'll be great.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to working with the Indigo Shire.
Thank you. Thanks, Margie. So, Alan Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had a neighbourhood watch meeting last week, and we had people from Benalla up there, from Vic Rose talking, and they said the Indigo Shire has received $12 million for a bike track. How long will it take to recoup that $12 million?
So I'll explain a bit about the 12 million. We don't recoup it. It's a grant. It's been granted to us through the Regional Tourism Infrastructure Fund. So it's a grant that's been given. 6 million of it is for Indigo Shire, for the construction of phase 1 of what is known as the Northeast Cycling Optimisation Program. So I've got to try and remember the names. And that's to do stage 1 is Beechworth through to Yakandanda, and then the other 6 million is for across the region to do enhancements on the bike trails all around the region, and promotion. So it's a big tourism infrastructure project, and that's why we were given the money. So we don't repay it, it's actually a grant.
No, but you might not actually repay it. Surely if I want to go to the pictures, they can't give me $6 million to go to the pictures, so what's the difference?
So Alan, this is being used to, no, Alan, I'm going to answer the question, but that's actually not one of the questions you submitted, but I'll answer it. We were given the money to increase tourism to the Shire, obviously for the benefit of everybody in the Shire. They're looking at figures of around 280,000 extra visitors just to our part of the Shire alone. So it's a big piece of work, and it's actually very exciting. I think one of the councillors will be talking about it later. So just to clarify for you, it isn't just about a path, it's about a whole approach to cycling tourism coming to the northeast of Victoria, and this is the first part of it in our Shire. So we were very lucky to get this money, and we're very, very happy to get it.
These figures, I hope they're...
Do you want to ask the questions you submitted?
I hope they're more informed than I've done since I've been on this Woolshed Road business. I've had to do a lot of personal mileage because I cannot believe what I'm told.
Okay, so this is a
anyway,
state
all right, go on to
government
question 2 if you like.
project,
Does a bike rider going to get, does it cost $9 million? This is what we're told the other night. Right. $9 million per accident. So is a bike rider included in that $9 million?
I don't have the figures.
If you have an accident, you're going to cost you the ratepayers $9 million.
No.
So is a bike rider going to cost $9 million?
No. No, so Tia, I'm not sure what you're asking, Alan, but this funding is to develop a tourism strategy.
Yeah, we're not worried about that, so but little bit of that on Woolshed Road and be done with it, so we don't have any accidents.
Okay, so,
You know, they said the road wasn't the cause of any accidents at all.
all right, so
Personal error was
just to
the
put it
reason.
in context, Alan, there's been several deaths on the Beechworth-Wodonga Road, and
But
therefore,
not by
Alan,
caused by
you
the
need to
road.
stop interrupting me when I'm trying to answer you. On the Beechworth-Wodonga Road, and therefore there is an upgrade, the government is funding it, and the ratepayers would be paying for the sealing of Woolshed Road. These are government-funded projects. They're not coming out of ratepayers' pockets. And as you know very well, because we've had lots of conversations around this, when and how we decide to seal the different roads in the Indigo Shire is a different issue altogether. And you rightly say that for your people on that road, it's an important thing to have it sealed. We're very aware of your views on that issue. So I'm going to say that's it, Alan. Thank you. Okay. And now the other one was from, is there anyone here, sorry? Yes.
Alan, if I just heard you correctly, and you said that about this process, that's not appropriate language to be using in here. Yeah, if you just said it was BS.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Larry. Thank you,
I'm
Councillor.
at the point where if you said something like that again, you should be ejected from here. That's not
I
appropriate for this chamber.
I didn't hear that, and I'm sure Mr. Davis is aware that that's not appropriate. So I'm going to ask you to now be quiet from the gallery, and I do have another question here from Elizabeth Mason from the Beechworth District Chamber of Commerce, but it can only be asked if there's someone present in the room. Thank you. Gary.
I'm just doing it on behalf of the MG.
Yes? No, that's fine.
Because Jules is the vice president.
Yep.
And I just had a problem going forward with the tuning that they sent to me today. And
So rather than reading out the whole thing, I'll just give a little quick background and then you can ask the question. So it's to do with the upstairs office, council office space above the town hall that is now vacant.
Yep.
And I believe that Elizabeth on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce is asking about that space. So if you want to ask the questions, I'm happy to answer them.
that's the gist of it.
Yep.
They're saying because they're operating environment under the same circuit,
Yeah.
same type of buildings for on the whole.
Yes. Yeah, we need to record it so people can hear the questions if they're watching. Yeah.
So the gist of it from there, and this has nothing to do with it, I remember speaking to Jerry a few years ago, and we had a meeting, just 3 or 4 of us, I don't know whether you remember, Jerry, and you brought up the fact, what can we do with those offices above?
Yep. So do you want to ask the questions and I'm going to get the
Yeah,
CEO to
Jerry,
answer?
Speak on that.
Yep.
But that's the gist of it.
Yep.
About using the top.
How do we use it?
rather
Yep.
than using the
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't want to ask the questions directly? All right, well, would you like to just, yeah, that's it. Would you like to just give a summary,
Sure.
Jerry, about those office space and whether people can access it?
Yes, certainly, Madam Mayor. So the first question was around the difference between the Rutherglen space owned by ratepayers and the Beechworth space, and why is there a difference? And fundamentally, the difference arises from the fact that the use of that facility changed in 2015 when the council staff relocated, and so when that use changes, there is a requirement for those buildings to comply with the Building Code of Australia. So at Rutherglen, there is a pre-existing use
Yes, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Basically, Gary, in relation to those requests from the chamber, I wrote to the president on the 7th of June last year and set out those details as I've just explained. Essentially, the upshot is that there was no at that stage no intention, or sorry, there was no funding to be able to address those particular issues. But with the new council coming on board, there would be an opportunity to revisit that. What I can say is that this council, in its council plan, has identified an initiative to do some master planning of the historic precinct, which will include the potential uses for upstairs in the old town hall. And if there is, coming out of that process, there will be the basis for looking at use and then looking at the way in which, or the cost of that, and how that might be funded over time. So there has been some development, obviously not as quick as the chamber would like, but it's on the radar and in the council plan.
All right, and that's it for open forum. So moving to item 6, are there any condolences? Mr. Collins, you didn't submit anything. No, sorry, we have to stick to the rules. No, look, I think you can talk to me after the meeting about it, but at this stage, we've reviewed it. It's local law. I have to implement it, but you can speak to me later, of course. All right, item 6, condolences. Are there any condolences? Item 7, confirmation of minutes from the last meeting. So the recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 2nd of May 2017 as published on council website be confirmed. Do I have someone to move that? Do I have someone to second? Councillor Murdoch. All those in favour? Carried. All right. And then, just bear with me. Item 8, business arising. There are actually no questions taken on notice at the meeting on the 2nd of May. Is there any other business arising from the minutes? Okay, good. Deputations and petitions. Do we have any to be submitted tonight? No. All right, so item 10, 10.1, the April monthly finance report. And the motion is, and I can find it, that council accepts the finance report as of the 30th of April 2017. Councillor Trenny, would you like to move that? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Murdoch, would you like to speak to that, Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, it's getting towards the end of the financial season. Obviously, it's fairly straightforward. This being more of a minor report. Capital works are on track to get to a very high level compared to what Indigo Shire has been done in the past, which is absolutely fantastic. And there's obviously some favourable variances in employee costs and so on, so which is a good result.
Okay. Would you like to? All right. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
I've just got some questions, Madam Mayor.
Certainly, Councillor.
Councillor Trennery, you have recently said that we have a very tight budget. Page 12 of this report shows the investment in which banks we invest, and some of those are now due. With the divestment recommendation in item 10.2, will that affect our income, and to what degree?
I think obviously that motion hasn't been passed yet, Councillor Gaffney, but if it is passed, it redirects probably some of the concerns moving towards environmental situations rather than just financial, as stated in the report. So, which will lessen probably how competitive it will be. So, I mean, probably based on that, yes, there could be a reduction. At what amount? It's impossible to say.
All right, just a second question. Will the changes to investment divestment affect the council budget bottom line?
It will obviously, if it drops below what's in the budget. I mean, we budget for a certain amount of money coming from interest earned from these deposits that we put in, and if by adopting this, we're less competitive and we get less money, then obviously it's going to affect the bottom line.
Thank you.
So I put the recommendation that council accepts the finance report as of 30th of April 2017. All those in favour? Passed. Thank you. All right. Item 10.2, financial divestment. So in line with the questions Councillor Gaffney just put. The recommendation is that council divests its investments when they become due to financial institutions that do not invest in the fossil fuel industry. Secondly, that it divests future long-term borrowings when they fall due to financial institutions that do not invest in the fossil fuel industry. Thirdly, notes that council will retain the current non-divested transactional banking provider at this time. However, council will advise this bank the intention to move to a divested provider in the future if they continue to support the fossil fuel industry. And fourthly, writes to council's current banking providers to advise them of council's stance on fossil-free financial institutions. Do I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Goldsworthy. Do I have someone to second the motion? Councillor Price. Would you, is there anyone who wants to speak? Sorry, Councillor, do you want to speak to the motion?
Council's position under the Local Government Act is to provide a number of roles, and one of those is advocating on behalf of the community. I believe that given the current state of the climate and the research going into the future, that we should be conscious of the effect of fossil fuels on the environment. To this end, it has a minimal effect on council and its finances, but we should be advocating that our whole community moves towards other sustainable methods of energy. And so council can do a little bit just by advocating to our banks to say, let's look at something different, a different way of doing business, we should. And so for that reason I recommend this motion to the council, and that we do our best to try and work towards a lower energy consuming future.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Price, do you want to speak to the motion?
I agree with everything that Councillor Goldsworthy said, and I'd just like to mention that this proposal came from the Indigo Environment Advisory Committee, so congratulate them on the advice that they've provided to council to get this to where it is. And just for awareness, this is bringing us in line with some councils near to us as well, which is Wodonga and Albury. So that's all I'd have to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor Tranry.
I've got a question for the mover to start off with. Do you know exactly, or can you give us an approximate amount how much this is going to cost over this year and next year?
I don't believe those figures have been provided to us, but given that the competitive nature of the banking industry, it'd be a minimal cost, and the financial implications are actually explained on page 20 of the document. If you'd like to read through those, I won't regurgitate them, but as I say, given that most of the competitive smaller banks are within 1 or 2% of the current big banks who are supporters of fossil fuel industry, I don't think it'll have a material effect on the council.
I'll make a brief statement if I can then, Madam Mayor. I have concerns about this for a lot of different reasons. When it was first broached, there was a fallback plan in regards to how much was our limit of risk in regards to what these banks may be offering us. If they weren't offering something that was comparable, then we didn't have to go to it. That risk is now high. It says here that the precise risk level is very difficult to calculate. And as Chair of the Finance Committee, I find it very hard to vote for any report that says that in regards to something that is such an important issue in regards to our budget. And I know it could be like only a few $1,000s here and a few $1,000s there. And when interest rates go up to 6, 7, 8, 9%, it might be a few more $1,000s. And all these things add up. So projects don't get done. All these bits and pieces add up, and it becomes tens of thousands of dollars that we do by basing ideology rather than strong financial character to these sort of things. I understand why
On page 18, at paragraph 3, it says that the long-term borrowing for this council will only lose a few $1,000s. We don't know how much. It could be a lot more than that. And Councillor Giles already mentioned the Act. I'd just like to read section 3C1 of the Local Government Act, which is the objective of council. The primary objective of council is to endeavour to achieve the best outcome for the local community. I don't believe that this motion will do that. Council seems to treat this money as if it's its own. It doesn't belong. The money is not yours, Ralph. The money belongs to the people. So if you're going to get less money for the people, you consult the people, but not this council. No consultation on this whatsoever. They're making a decision with your money. It also states that there are 8 Victorian councils who divest out of 79, and there is, in Australia, there's only 30 out of 537 think this is a great idea, but Indigo Shire does. We, at this stage, carry debt of $4.235 million. We need the best interest rate for that money we can get. On page 17, it talks about our investments, borrowings, and traditional banking is based on best financial advantage, less risk, and the management of transactional efficiency. This motion does not achieve that. Page 19 states that using divestment for transitional banking is an expensive, time-consuming and risky operation, but we still continue to pursue this. Page 20, paragraph 5, talks about the increased financial risks to council. We all know about green bonds, and the banks who support the green bonds are the NAB, $300 million, CBA, $650 million, Westpac, $500 million, ANZ, $600 million, in excess of $2 billion. These are people who are concerned about our environment, and we're turning our back on them. I was recently at a round table of some of the biggest employees in this region. They all said as one that if we could not guarantee baseload power, they would close their door and move elsewhere. Baseload power means coal and gas, the two things, the fossil fuels, that we don't want to use. This message sends a clear message to processors and manufacturers that Indigo Shire is not open for business. It's also been mentioned that this was a recommendation from the Indigo Environment Advisory Committee. The delegate who spoke to the Indigo Shire Council made it very clear that Indigo Shire Council needed to show leadership. Only a couple of months after that, the person who spoke to us was handing out for the Greens how to vote cards at the federal election.
Councillor, it is not appropriate for you to discuss an individual in a motion like this.
Well, it's certainly Greens
It's not
party
appropriate.
policy.
You are crossing.
It's
You
a
are
fact,
crossing
Madam Mayor.
the line.
It's a fact.
It may
He spoke
be.
to us about leadership, and then he was handing out cards.
You're
for
out
the
of order,
Greens.
councillor. So I'm going to put the motion. Would you like to sum up? I just wanted to clarify, reading from this document on page 18, as with the investments, the divested institutions that were sampled for the purposes of this report reported better average interest rates for their fixed-term loans. The difference in the average was significant, 0.7%, and demonstrates good value. Despite this lower average, the absolute lowest fixed-term rate quote was, however, a non-divested bank, and therefore a purely financial decision at the present time would likely result in a recommendation to use a non-divested financial institution. Despite the large average variation, the difference in the top few quotes were, however, very marginal, and the estimated cost to council to divest future borrowings is in the region of only a few $1,000s per year. So a few $1,000s per year in terms of our future, I think is, we've decided is worth going for. Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Councillor Goldsworthy, would you like to sum up?
Yes. Look, the argument can be made on both sides in relation to the cost benefit for this. It clearly states in the report that there has minimal impact on the finances of the Shire. We are elected to make difficult decisions. This may be one of them for some of the members at the table, but for me, it's about the future of our children and future generations. And for me, I think we should support this motion.
So I put the motion that council divest its investments. All those in favour? All those against? Carried.
Division.
So please raise your hands, all those in favour. You noted that, Loretta, you got all the names? I will say who they are. Councillor Goldsworthy, Councillor Murdoch, Councillor Shepherd, Councillor Price and Councillor O'Connor. All those against the motion, raise your hands. Councillor Gaffney and Councillor Trannery. Moving right along. 10.3. Instruments of delegation. So this recommendation, and I'm not going to read out the whole thing because it's very lengthy, but it's basically that council delegates to the person holding the position, acting in or performing the duties of the Chief Executive Officer, the powers, duties and functions set out in the attached instrument of delegation to the Chief Executive Officer and to all of the other officers in council who require delegation from council. So is there someone to move that motion? Thank you, Councillor Goldsworthy. Anyone to second it? Councillor Murdoch. Is there anyone? Do you want to speak to the motion?
Sure.
Please do.
It's important we have a
We need to run the show.
delegation policy, because if we don't, we'd be here all day, every day. And the council staff need to be allowed to get on with their work and assist in that.
Thank you. Councillor Murdoch, do you want to add to that? Or reserve your right? Anyone want to speak against the motion? Anyone want to speak for the motion? You can just sum up, you can.
I endorse your words because Councillor Goldsworthy's words, because without a proper setup, we would be making decisions in this council chamber for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week more than likely. We delegate to our staff and we expect them to follow through on the delegations that we give them. This delegation is set up by the government and it's very extensive and it can, hold us together a little bit and hold us to account. So I recommend the motion.
Thank you. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. So item 10.4. The council receives and endorses the attached advisory committee minutes and endorses the officer comments. Do I have someone to move that motion? Do I have someone else to move that motion? Councillor Trannery. Do I have someone to second the motion? Councillor Murdoch. Anyone to speak? Oh, sorry. Do you want to speak to the motion, Councillor? Microphone.
The advisory committees obviously do a very good job, and basically they have volunteers and people with the passion for these advisory committees. We really struggle as a Shire, so a lot of information in there, but I congratulate all those involved. It was really important for our Shire that these people participate. So.
Thank you. Do you want to say anything? All right, well, I'll just put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 10.5, the Assembly of Council's records. The Council accepts the attached Assembly of Council records. Do I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Gaffney. Do I have someone to second it? Councillor Murdoch. All right. Do you need to speak to the motion?
I'll just say that this is a requirement of the local government, of the state government over
recommendation is that council notes the report and the outcomes of the 2016-17 pool season, that we note the successful introduction of Momentum 1 and the improvement in staff costs and efficiency, notes the improvement in operating costs, and lastly authorises the continuation of the Rutherglen pool season extension. This allows the CEO the discretion to allow free entry to pools in the event of a heat wave. And lastly, the charging of lifeguard fees to schools during out-of-hours opening at a flat rate of $43.70 for events up to 2 hours and $65.50 for events over 2 hours. Do I have someone to move that motion? You certainly can. I'd have to, is it Mr. Scholes?
Madam Mayor, no, we haven't.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
I'd like to move that the recommendation be put forward without the last dot point.
all right, so remove the last off point. Do I have someone to second that recommendation? Councillor Price? Anyone, do you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Goldsworthy?
Sure. Our swimming pools are an invaluable asset to the Shire. We know that they cost council annually a considerable amount, but the benefit that is received from them is beyond measure. The state government has announced that they are looking to expand the swimming program within schools. I think charging them additional fees beyond just their entry is unfair given the difficulties that schools have in just getting funding and getting kids to participate in activities. So I believe that at the moment, without burdening them with further costs, we should continue to support our swimming pools.
All right, the seconder, Councillor Price, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I'd agree with Councillor Goldsworthy. I think anything that discourages our local pools from our local schools from using our local pools, I couldn't support. So I agree with that amendment to the motion, and I'm excited to see that there'll be more water activation initiatives will be investigated for the next season, because I think that as much as our pools are much loved by our community, they could be absolutely better utilised, and giving our growing ageing population that there's a lot of room there for that age group to be accessing more of our pools.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion?
Just
Councillor
a
Trenary?
concern with the amendment that's been put. Does the council that put that amendment have a conflict of interest, since he's the president of a school committee that's going to receive
Councillor,
additional
I
money
think,
because it's not going through? And I'm probably going to vote for it, but I just want to make sure that we're clear, because usually if you hold a executive position, you have to declare that.
so given that the council themselves has to make that call, you've raised the issue. Councillor, do you want to respond to that?
I don't believe I have any conflict of interest in regards to it. It's not something that the secondary college is considered at its board level, so I don't believe that there's any concern there. I think we all have an interest in our swimming pools because we all have the ability to use them and our children swim in them. So I don't see that I have any more of a conflict than anyone else.
Right, thank you. So going
I'll
back
just say I accept that. That's fine. I just want to bring it up.
Okay, so going back to the recommendation, is anyone else want to speak to the motion?
I've got a question.
Just Councillor Beddoes first.
As a teacher, and I was around when we moved this the first time, and things haven't changed. The small schools are struggling, and it's the small schools that will be most affected by this, because it costs quite a lot of money for them to get organised, get the kids down to the pool, get parents who are in many of our towns are low socioeconomic, so it's our constituents in some of our small towns are low socioeconomics. They will have to pay for it, and as an ex-teacher, it is important for children to learn to swim, and particularly in these areas where we've got a lovely big stream north of us that really requires children to be able to swim with them, and it's important that all children learn to swim. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney, I apologise.
them, and the actual cost, I believe, was about 195, and we wanted to recruit 6550. What will be the total cost to the ratepayers in the Beechworth community as a whole if this amendment succeeds?
Madam Mayor, this is all the guesswork, of course, but we're estimating based on last year's usage about $6,000.
Thank you.
Does that, it saves $6,000, but how much does the subsidy to the schools cost us?
Sorry, perhaps I didn't explain that clearly. If this fee is not charged, that will cost an additional $6,000 to the council.
Thank you. Anyone else?
That really wasn't the question.
Ask it again,
How much does us subsidising the schools be a cost to council? Because the fee is $65.50, but the actual cost is $195.
Madam Mayor, I think 195 was an example we talked about before the council meeting in a briefing session, and that's when we were looking at if an event went for 3 hours, the cost to the council of employing 2 lifeguards is approximately $65 per hour. So if we had a 3-hour event, the lifeguard cost would be $195.
Right. Is your question answered? Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Shepherd.
So the cost this year was $260,400 to the ratepayers. That's how much our pools cost us, which is a lot of money. We saved $60,000 through the blankets that were put on, and a lot of things that have been looked into. The solar heating. We've been doing reports on looking into what the different costs and what the different problems are with the different ones, and trying to cut costs. So we've saved $60,000, and we're looking at perhaps solar heating, electric solar for the pools, and blankets for all the pools. That's something we're looking for, to save some more costs. And I think that's probably a more effective and efficient way of saving costs, and one that would be supported, I imagine, by the ratepayers than $6,000 saving that we charge the school. So I prefer to make those savings in those things that I've spoken about rather than charging our kids.
Okay. Anyone else? You've already. Go ahead, councillor.
I was only asking a question about the amount. The importance of the pools and the pools to be used by the schools is very important.
Thank you. All right. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Would you like to sum up, councillor?
Just following on from Councillor Shepherd's point, it would be important for the Finance Committee to actually look at the costs of the pools and the different areas as outlined in the report, whether it's water and charges, chemicals or electricity. There are disparities between pools. I think our next meeting of the Finance Committee we should examine those more closely.
Right, thank you.
And in relation to the report or the motion as it stands, I commend it to us. I think it's a worthwhile initiative to support not only our pools but those to learn to swim.
Thank you, councillor.
Can I just get clarification, because it was called an amendment at the start, but it's the recommendation minus that.
It's the recommend. Yeah, it's
So
not
it's not
actually
an
an amendment. It's the recommendation minus dot point 3 in point 4. So I will put that motion as as moved by councillor Goldsworthy. The recommendation, including all of the below as outlined, the entire recommendation minus dot point 3 under item 4. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 11.2, Kew Springs Water Extraction Monthly Compliance Report. The council notes that the Kew Springs Water Extraction Facility monitoring report content and the action undertaken where required. Do I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Price. Someone to second it? Councillor Gaffney. Do you want to speak to the motion? No? Anyone want to speak against it? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Accept the report. Carried. 11.3, the Barmutha Park Committee of Management. recommendation is that Council, 1, revokes the previous instrument of delegation between the Council and the Barmutha Park Committee of Management and adopts the attached instrument of delegation. 2, nominates councillor to be nominated to represent Council on the Barmutha Park Committee of Management. 3, initiates a process to establish the Committee of Management. And 4, endorses the existing office bearers to exercise their functions under the delegation of the CEO until the new Committee of Management is appointed. Firstly, do I have someone to move the motion? Councillor Trenery, someone to second it? Councillor Price. Secondly, do I have someone to nominate who the council would be? Yep. Do you accept the nomination, councillor? Any objections to that? Great, okay. So, do you want a sub? All right.
Can I nominate Councillor Gaffney as the sub?
Would you accept that nomination? Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to put the motion. Anyone want to speak to that motion? The mover? Councillor Trenery moved it. Yeah, you can speak first, councillor.
Barmutha Park's a very important park in the Indigo Shire. I was lucky to be on the committee for some time when it was working very well and in a strong fashion. I think it'll be up there and do that again. It's got some great facilities, probably some of the best facilities in the Shire, and it's important that it gets well looked after. And I think the makeup of this committee, as it is, will do that. And I commend also the staff that have been heavily involved in this for quite some time. A lot of hours have been put into this, and they've done an excellent job, and it really shows how well the council can work with community to end up with a good result. And I thank all involved.
Thank you. Councillor Price, do you wish to speak?
Similar to Councillor Trenery, I think this facility and Barmutha Park are the envy of the Shire, and I look forward to working with the Committee of Management, and I hope that it's a successful committee going forward.
Thank you, councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I will put the motion with Councillor Price as the nominated councillor, as the nominated council rep on the committee, Councillor Gaffney as the sub. Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 11.4. This is the proposed lease of council land at Anderson Street in Chiltern. So the recommend. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yes, please.
So the initial point 1 would stand. The point 2 recommendation would be enters into a non-transferable lease with AM Brown Earth Moving for a period of 49 years at current market valuation of $3,500 per annum and subject to rent review every 3 years and annual CPI increases for the lease site 1, in brackets as shown in the plan in this report, Anderson Street, Chiltern.
Thank you. So I'll put the motion. Sorry, did you want to say something? I need to put the motion first, but with the amendment. We haven't
So point number 3 would stand.
authorises the CEO to sign and seal the lease document once finalised.
Sorry, just a clarification.
Sorry,
So,
just give me a moment. So I was about to read the motion. That's okay. So I haven't said what it is yet. So the motion is that council receives and considers the submissions. Let me put the motion and then you can ask your questions. Received in response to its notice of intention to enter into a lease with AM Brown Earth Moving for lease site 1, Anderson Street, Chiltern. Point 2, that it enters into a non-transferable lease as set out by Councillor Goldsworthy, which includes the starting price at $3,500 for 49 years, including 3-year reviews and an annual CPI increase. And 3, authorises the Chief Executive Officer to sign and seal the lease documents once finalised. Are you okay with that? Good. Right, we've covered it. All right. Who would like to? Do you want to second the motion? seconded by Councillor Murdoch. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Goldsworthy?
I shall.
Go ahead.
This has been a long time coming. The alteration that I made is only for the sake of clarity. Certainly it was mentioned in the information provided by the staff around the leasing agreement and the expense. Just the alteration made that a little bit clearer. Moving forward with the industrial area at Chiltern will be a positive for Chiltern, and it will certainly support that community into the future. So I highly recommend it to the council.
And Councillor Murdoch, do you wish to speak as a seconder?
Yeah, this has been a long time coming. I could do a long
You've got 3 minutes,
speech on this.
Councillor.
No, I can remember when this was first moved right back around about 2004, and they wanted 50 hectares of industrial land, and the big mantra was, do we want a town attached to an industrial estate or an industrial estate attached to a town? And it was overwhelming. They wanted it attached to the town. And because of that, it slowed down the process of having an industrial estate. Everybody was well in agreement that we needed some form of industrial estate to create employment and to somewhere to put things like trucks to get them out of the town. And I didn't realise I did this, but I must have moved a motion back in 2010 for the people to investigate suitable land. And so here we go, another 6-7 years after that, and it's finally coming to fruition. And this is got the potential to provide employment for the town. It's got the potential for businesses that can set up at a relatively cheap rate, and also this recommendation, which is the start, will be the proving ground for an expansion of the industrial estate. But it's in an area where I think people want it, and I think a lot of people, very many, are for it, as I've been talking to people in town.
Terrific. Thank you, Councillor. Anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not against the motion, but I'm certainly against the process. Barb spoke about 2010. I moved a motion in 2014 on the 19th of September regarding the zoning of industrial and residential land in Chiltern. And they certainly needed to be examined, and the residential land still does. Okay, Section 3C.1 of the Local Government Act says the primary objective of council is to endeavour to advise to achieve the best outcome for the local community. On page 51, paragraph 1, the council received 2 valuations for the land. One was 3,500, one was 5,200. You'd think that council would either want the higher one or at least the middle ground, but no, it went for the lower valuation of 3,500 and stated then that it was because the land was unserviced. Since then, council has decided to spend 87,000 to put those services on. Shouldn't the site be valued now as a service site to obtain the maximum support for our community as far as finances go?
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Price.
I am confident in the process, Councillor Gaffney. I've asked all the questions that I've needed to in regards to the process and received all the answers that I've needed to be confident that this is the way that the process should have proceeded for us to be able to be eligible for federal funding. I think that overwhelmingly, as I stated at the February meeting, Chiltern supports this industrial land. I think those that have an issue with the process don't have an issue with the process, they have an issue with the industrial land, and that is a very small minority. All I've heard is an overwhelming majority speak to the fact that they are so excited that this industrial land is finally going to go ahead. There's a lot of dispute about when the discussions about industrial land first started. I've heard some people say that it came out of the Chiltern placemaking. It was certainly well before then, and it was only solidified in the Chiltern placemaking because the town has overwhelmingly wanted this for quite some time. So I'm excited that it's about to come before us now, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Trenery.
Probably just based on some of what Councillor Price has stated, but I think all those involved in the Chiltern placemaking that was created started, I think it was about 2.5 years ago now. There was some negativity about it, where there was just going to be another report that's going to sit on desks. This is another positive result for all those involved in the Chiltern placemaking, so congratulations.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak to the motion? So, Councillor Goldsworthy, would you like to sum up?
One of the functions of council is to advocate and promote proposals which are in the best interest of the local community. This is in the best interest of the Chiltern community. The anchor tenant will be putting up a substantial amount of funding in order to activate this site. There will be other sites available in the near term that other applications will be asked for. So I think it's a positive for Chiltern and a positive for the Indigo Shire.
Thank you. So I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Carried.
Division.
All those in favour, raise your hands. Councillor Trenery, Councillor Price, Councillor Shepherd, Councillor Goldsworthy, Councillor Murdoch, Councillor O'Connor. Those against? Councillor Gaffney. Thank you. 11.5, the Heritage Loans Fund proposal to reduce the interest rate to 1%. The recommendation is that Council sets the interest rate for a loan from the Heritage Loan account at 1%. And secondly, reviews the impact of the reduction in interest rate as part of the Council's 2018-19 budget. Do I have someone to move the motion? Councillor Murdoch. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor?
I think this is very important because there's many people who would like to do and renovate, and this fund is very important because it allows the funds for people to be able to do things earlier than they could have done before. This fund originally started quite a few years ago. It was a grant from government, I believe, and it has been in the hands of Indigo Shire ever since, with people borrowing and then paying back. But lately we haven't had as many people as we would like taking it up, so we thought with an interest rate of 1%, it certainly does make it more attractive, and then it really makes it easier for people who have heritage buildings, which do cost a fair bit to get done up and to improve and to make them an icon in our various towns, because it's not just Beechworth or Yackandander, it's Chiltern, Rutherglen, any building that can be is deemed as a heritage building, anybody can apply for it. So I think this is a really good initiative, and hopefully it helps people that might otherwise be second thinking their improvement to their buildings. Have a go.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak to the motion? Anyone want to speak against it? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 11.6, Sport and Recreation Victoria funding priorities. So the recommendation is that Council 1 lodges the funding applications for the 2018-19 Community Sports Infrastructure Grant Program for the following 4 projects: the Chiltern Netball Courts, the Rutherglen Lake Moodamere Rowing Club, Wurrigi Tennis Courts, and the Lakes and Waters Activation Planning. And secondly, notes that the possible requirement for up to $420,000 be allocated in the 2018-19 financial year in support of these projects, and that obviously is to do with whether grants are allocated or not. So I'm going to put the motion. Is somebody willing to move the motion? Sorry, I beg your pardon. Councillor Price. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Murdoch. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor?
I'm excited that we can put forward 4 projects for sport and rec funding within our shire. We have a very extensive matrix that decides which projects are chosen to apply for these grants, and I'm confident in these projects. The Chiltern Netball Courts, most people are aware that this courts have been have needed some updating quite regularly. So this grant that we're applying for is quite significant. The Rutherglen Lake Moodymere Rowing Club requires some upgrades to their shed facilities, and they have quite a significant event yearly, the Rutherglen Lake Rowing Regatta. The Warragee Tennis Courts, Councillor Gaffney knows more about, and our lakes and waters activation planning is something that we'll be putting in our council plan.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murdoch, would you like to second the motion? Reserve your right. Reserve your right. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
I'd just like to say that these 4 projects are very, very important. Chiltern is desperate for new courts. The Lake Moodymere Rowing Club, their building is in a dilapidated condition, and the Warragee Tennis Courts certainly need a severe upgrade. It wouldn't surprise me if that is the biggest tennis club in Indigo Shire. The number of juniors that play there is outstanding. I support the motion.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 11.7 is planning permit application PP160237, the dwelling at 71 Forest Lane, Chiltern. The recommendation is that council resolves to approve planning permit PP160237 to allow the use of the land for a dwelling on land known as 71 Forest Lane, Chiltern, subject to the following conditions, and issue a notice of decision to grant a permit. There are a very long list of conditions which I won't read out, but I will put the motion. Do I have someone to move the motion? Councillor Gaffney, someone to second? Councillor Murdoch. Would you like to speak to it?
I would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a property that's to become a standard bred trotting horse stud. The applicant is a registered breeder and licensed trotting trainer and driver. The applicant has a vision to put Chiltern on the map in the harness racing industry and would more than likely bring 2 more families to Chiltern. This is another project that recognises Chiltern as a destination. The applicant is prepared to invest in excess of $600,000. The harness racing industry, as we all know, is a growth industry, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of visitors and people coming to purchase horses and look at horses. It should be a really show place for Indigo Shire.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murdoch. You were the seconder, so you go first. It's okay.
No, this the land where this is very close to the highway, and it's all an area where there are a lot of small blocks. So it isn't like it's destroying the area by putting a farming area. It is at the present moment used, I think, by a lot of lifestyle people as well as people that are doing small agricultural pursuits or horse pursuits. So I think that if getting this project up means that there will probably be jobs for someone else, but I think it's worthwhile.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? All right, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 12.1 is the asset management policy. The recommendation is that council adopts the updated asset management policy 2017 attached to this report and notes that it supersedes the previous version. Do I have someone to move the motion? Councillor Trenery. Do I have someone to second the motion? Councillor Murdoch. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor?
The asset management policy obviously is very important. We have quite a few assets in the community. We're also looking at adopting to new assets coming into the future. And some of the add-ons to this is the whole of life of these assets, so it's very important that we consider that when we're looking at purchasing or keeping assets instead of selling them, or when we produce new assets like a rail trail. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murdoch, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, we're a very small shire, and it's very, very hard to manage our assets and to have a proper asset management plan that will keep the costs of shire I'm not quite sure what the word in control. I think I congratulate our officers. I think they've done a really good job on this, and it'll help us go into the future building our assets properly.
Terrific. Anyone else like to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 12.2. This is the assessment criteria for the expression of interest for use of the former maternal and child health building in Beechworth. The recommendation is 1, that Council endorses the assessment criteria set out in this report for the expression of interest process for the short-term use of the former maternal and child health building in Ford Street, Beechworth. 2, offers a right to each of the parties that submitted an expression of interest requesting responses to the endorsed assessment criteria. And 3, that Council receives a further report with recommendations on the use of this building based on the endorsed assessment criteria. Do I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Gaffney. Do I have someone to second it? Councillor Price. Shepherd, sorry. Would you like to speak to the motion?
I'd just like to say that this criteria means that it's a very open and transparent process.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd.
Just that it's great that that building that was looked at being pulled down has been given a little bit of a hiatus, and there's an opportunity for us to use it until we work out a general plan as to what's going to happen in that area. So it's a great opportunity for the community to, or somebody anyway, maybe a few people, to access that with these assessment criteria. So good process. Any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Right. So, sorry. Back I go. So the next item is reports from executive management, and there are no reports for this meeting. There are no notices of motion for this meeting. So now it's really just to give the councillors time to give the public a bit of an idea of what they've been doing or issues of interest. So are there any councillors that would like to take a couple of minutes to do that? Councillor Price.
One thing that I'd just like to recognise in tonight's meeting was the consultation on Martins Lane. I really congratulate the community of Chiltern. A lot of people have came in and had their bit to say on how they would like to see Martins Lane used. Overwhelmingly, I've heard that people are just excited to see that space be used. They're happy to see just a public space within town. It's the nearest we'll get to a town square or an open space like that. So I thank the council staff for the consultation. It allowed for small children to come down and vote with magnets, or while their adult parents were able to give more lengthy feedback as to exactly the facilities they needed to see in those laneways. So that's all I'd like to mention.
Thank you. Any other councillor? Councillor Gaffney.
I went to the volunteers' lunch at Barmouth Park during May. There's about 140 volunteers there. I thought it was an excellent event. And I'd like to congratulate the Mayor on her advocacy at Murray Goulburn. She's taken a leadership role. She's got the attention of federal and state governments. I just think that she's done a great job and should be recognised.
Thank you, councillor. Pardon? You're not allowed to speak from the floor. Okay, councillor Shepherd. Thank you.
I know we've already discussed it, but of course we need to be excited about that $12 million that we've got for our bike path from Beechworth to Osborne's Flat. So and that's $6 million for that bike path, and then the other $6 million is for enhancements and marketing. And we still haven't yet got the details of when we're getting the money and the rest of the details. I'm the councillor on the committee, so I can tell you there's still a lot of discussion around it, but it looks an exciting venture, and I'm very excited to be part of it. And I'm also very keen to make sure that the community are kept abreast of what's going on, and there'll be opportunities for the community to be told what's going on as soon as we know what's going on.
It's true. Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Councillor Trennery.
Unfortunately, I speak about things that have already been spoken about, but I'd like to talk about them if I can. There's a few things. Just the Mayor's been congratulated, but congratulations to the Mayor and the Council on the whole and the way they've reacted to the situation over in Kiwa. That town obviously is going to struggle, and we need to really get behind it and help it out, whether it be small business or otherwise. It affects community, both small business and also sporting and the whole of the community. I think there's a lot of great things happening out there in regards to the developments that are happening. We're going to bring young families to Kiwa that's going to have a great effect on that area, which is going to be fantastic. The other thing I'd like to talk about is probably the rail trail as well, and just it's been a project in the making since I've been on council 4.5 years ago, and we were told it was pie in the sky and it'll never happen, and a lot of different things. But I just like to. It really got momentum when the new CEO came on board. So with Jerry and his crew really pushed this at every occasion. It started off as a $3.2 million project and ended up being quite a bit larger. So I'd just like to thank all those that are involved. It's been a bit of a personal pet project and has taken a lot of people, a lot of hard work. So thank you very much.
Any other councillors? Okay, so general business, 16.1, the Timor-Leste visit in July. Indigo Shire and Local Government Victoria have a partnership agreement with Timor-Leste. That Local Government Victoria organises visits to partner councils in Victoria. We've hosted representatives before, and key staff at Indigo Shire give presentations on things like governance, waste management, visits to the men's shed and the women's shed, etc. The upcoming visit of Timor-Leste delegates is scheduled for late July 26th to 27th. This tour centres around waste management. The following resolution of Council was passed at the Ordinary Council meeting on the 31st of May. The Council supports being a participant in the Local Government Victoria-sponsored Timor-Leste Fellowship Program by hosting an exchange of Timor-Leste officers in financial years 16-17. That was moved by Councillor Croucher and Councillor Horn. So now we are being asked that Indigo Shire supports the request for Council to host a dinner that includes the representatives of Timor-Leste and the Aturo Island Friendship Committee and appropriate council officers. Do I have a councillor to move that? No idea. What's the cost? Can I suggest that we defer this because we didn't discuss it in the briefing and just get some more information on it? Yeah. Is council's happy with that? Yeah, thank you. All right, so I'll note that that's been a request and we'll make a decision on that one. And I'll just check, but I think that that's the end of the meeting. Let me see if there's anything else here. So, any other general business? Councillor Gaffney.
The Indigo Shire Council recently lost a VCAT hearing in regard to planning. Is that matter finalised?
Mr. Scholz.
Madam Mayor, certainly the VCAT process is finalised. There is a question as to whether any subsequent declarations under the Road Management Act need to be made, but as yet that's not been decided.
The second part to that question was, will there be a flow-on effect for other planning applications that are similar to this?
No, this was a unique situation involving some complex legal questions about ownership of a laneway and easement rights. I think it's very unlikely that we would have a similar case in the future.
And one other matter, Madam Mayor. Some years ago, the council went out to tender in regard to legal matters
Any other general business? All right. So, oh, sorry, Councillor Trenery.
Just on that, I wouldn't mind seeing presented to the Finance Committee at least the costs of VCAT and our success or lack of success over the last 12 months, just so we've got a handle on exactly what's going on there. I couldn't say I knew or know of the costs at all, so if I could see that, I'd appreciate it. And the other thing is too, Madam Mayor, is we went to general business very quickly, and you've got a diary in there, I see. I was just wondering how the Alga conference in Launceston went.
Oh, sorry. The ALGA conference in Launceston was fine. It was a good opportunity to represent the Shire. The ALGA is the Australian Local Government Women's Association. We were all invited, but council decided all the women. So rather than sending 4 of us, I went as a delegate to try and save some costs. It was very useful in terms of networking, and one of the issues that came up there that will be followed up is that the women mayors of Victoria take a very proactive stand against family violence and violence in our communities, and that process is underway, and I'll be reporting back to this to council and to the public as we get further down. But that was one of the things that came out of that as we listened to the Commissioner for Police in Tasmania reveal some terrible stories, and we are now, I think it's 82 women have been killed by their partners in the last 18 months. So this is a crisis, and it's something that the women mayors of Victoria are going to take a stand on, and I think that's a fantastic outcome. It's the first time anything like that's been done. So that came out of that conference. And apart from that, it was the usual networking and information sharing between councils, so it was actually quite useful. And Launceston is beautiful, I have to say. Anything else? Yeah, today I will just give you a brief update. We had a preliminary meeting with Alpine Shire, and Tawong weren't able to be there, but they will be represented in looking at planning amendments around bulk water extraction in local government and the impact on amenity for the shires. So we will be working together to look at, under the recommendation of the Minister, to look at ways that we can have some more certainty both for the operators of the bulk water extractors and for the communities around what are the conditions that need to be put in place, what are the impacts, and what are the things that can be done when people are putting in for an application, and so that they've got clarity around what are the conditions on the planning permits, which at the moment haven't really taken into account this industry because it's a fairly new one, and we weren't set up to actually deal with it. So the 3 shires are looking at how to do that the best way, and also looking at input from I think there's now 7 councils that have expressed interest in doing this. So that's what we're working on, and today was the preliminary meeting, and as we get closer to being able to do that work around what those amendments might be, of course we'll be doing consultation, etc.